Hey guys, and welcome back. So this is a preview of the particle sim with the increased count, and I think it's working quite well. I did use a color variation that is driven by the length of the velocity. So the faster the particles are moving, the brighter the color is going to be. And overall, if we look at the alpha channel, we have lots of cool details, and I think this is going to be a great to render. All right, let's create something a bit more complex. First, actually, let me show a few things about the sim. So if we look at the details, you can see we're getting a lot of these stringy lines accumulating together. And this is a very common visual that we'd love to see with magical effects in general. And one thing that we could do is we can flatten them. We can flatten these points together. So I'm going to scale them down to 0 and look at the details, just all of them. And we can also play it. And this could be a really cool 2D effects if you're into that kind of stuff. And we can also use any deformer that Houdini offers on top of this. So I can take this geometry and let's check the bend node. So I'm going to use the X direction. I'm going to move the origin back a bit and increase the capture length to cover the entire radius of the sim. And I'm going to bend it not along that vector. Let's try the Z. No, let's try the X. So let's see. Actually, let's do this. Let's aim it along the Y, along the Z axis, and let's reduce this. I want to do two bending. So this one 360 to roll it like that, maybe 180. And then I'm going to copy this again and change the orientation to -1 and bend the other half. So let's go maybe 220 on both of them and get some overlap. And now we have some cool, let's look at it from this way. We have some cool motion in a cylinder form, and this could be really, I mean, it can be used for many things. Let's lower the scale to 0.25 to give it some depth, so we have some details in the center. I think this can create something very interesting. All right, let's take a look at this particle node that I used to color the points. So this is something that we use for water in general, but it has a feature that I'm interested in. And I'm going to change this polygon soup to particles, connect the node here, and then use visualize velocity. And the default pattern is this, so it just changed the color to have black, orange, yellow, and white. And I changed the range to 15, change it to 10, 15. And then here I'm just applying alpha. You can make it 0.05. And yeah, I'm getting a lot of cool details. So let's improve this. And I'm going to version up the scene. Call this advanced before. And currently we're emitting from the edge only. So I want to make the source have volumetric data in it. And I'm going to go to the source node, this one here, and I'm going to change a few things. So the scatter here, I'm going to copy. I'm going to use a VDB from volume. We've done this before many times now. I'm going to VDB this, and I'm going to scatter points inside, and I'm going to scatter, let's say 100,000, maybe more, 250,000, and this one 500,000. I'm going to relax the surface a bit as well, even more. Get nicer distribution of the points. I'm going to merge both of them. So this and this. And this one I'm going to use for my source. Now, the attribute growth that we have is coming from this and this angle. And what I noticed is when we do the effects, it's not exactly how I want it to be, because if we have some sort of force that is coming from this side, it does not make sense for it to also be happening here. And I want to start from this side everywhere. and then the force pushes the points, and if there is a geometry or if there is remaining geometry, it should collide with that. And here we're not going to be able to do all of that. So I want to change the growth to be from this side. I'm going to go to the selection and move this point here to this location. And then the second one, I'm going to leave it there, maybe reduce it a bit. And now the growth should start from this side, like that. Very simple. But we're not going to use this. We're not going to use this growth animation. I'm just interested in the noise. So I'm going to use an object merge and call this. We have the noise pattern here happening, and I'm going to create a null. Call this out source. Actually, we made all those. Yeah, let's reuse this as well. So we made the noise, we made all of this, and then I like to keep that. So I'm just going to copy this part, paste it, and I don't need the seen and not seen trick. Just need an ID. I need some velocity, and now this should be static everywhere. Okay, and if I look at the velocity, we have some forces, and this is going to be my new source for advanced. Object merge this. I'm going to go here and let me place it. Let me change the background to black. And what I want to do is this. I want to remove all the points that are not white yet. Anything that is black, anything that hasn't emitted yet. I want to separate them. A blast node at cd.x is lower than 0.1. And now we have two things. We have all the remaining points and the emitted points. Let's be more aggressive with the selection. I'm going to copy this and say delete non-selected. And if we look here, you will see that I have points inside. And actually the points are not that many. So I'm going to go to the source and I'm going to increase this to 1 million. The inside, I'm not going to relax them for now just to keep it fast. I think 2 million is better. And let's increase this. And now I should have that node here, but it's okay. So now I have this source. And if I look at the nodes, we're separating them and it has volumetric data, right? Very cool. So this is what I want to emit. This is what I want to blow away. And this is the remaining of that. So if I'm shooting all of this, if I'm emitting all these particles, they should collide with this. They should collide with this remaining stuff. They shouldn't go through that. So how can we do that? Well, we can use VDB. We can use volumes. I'm going to use VDB from particles and set this to 0. And what this does, like we used a volume, VDB from volume node, we can generate volumes from points, and this is how you mesh water surfaces. So if I set this to 0 and this to 1, it's going to be high. Right now the radius is too big, so let's set it to 0.01, and now it's too small, sorry. And we need to find a good balance, 0.25, and there we go. We're starting to see a surface now. And let me lower the voxel size to make it more precise. And the higher these numbers, the more precision we get. And look, we are representing the surface again. Let's go a bit lower, 0.25. Boom, we have a very accurate representation of the surface. Let's increase it to 0.5 and maybe the points 0.3, 0.4. Yep, I like it. So now we can convert this, VDB convert this into a mesh. And look at this. This is an actual mesh now, a 3D mesh with all the details. So if I'm actually dissolving this, this would make sense in the render as well as the viewport. But maybe in the render it's going to be, we need more details on the outer surface, and we can just make two versions. We can make a version for the sim, and we can make a version for the render that is much more high res and has more details. But for now, I'm going to go back to this, lower the voxel so it's faster for us to work with. And now this is what we want to use to collide with, and then this is what we want to emit from. But I want to make it even more complicated, and I want to show you guys how we can, take this to be something like a fully fledged effects and finish all the steps. So we did the collision. The idea for the collision is this: we are going to emit particles at this point and then use whatever remaining as a collider. I'm going to copy this and then use this one as the source, but not for the sim, not for the particle. I'm going to use this for the smoke sim. So I'm going to do a complex smoke sim that uses this as a source and this is as a collider, so that when I emit smoke, it's going to wrap around, it's going to have some noise, it's going to have all of that. And then from that, we're going to use the same operation, emit particles from this, and use the newly simmed velocity to affect them and also collide them with this. So let's do that. So here we're converting it into a volume. A surface SDF. I don't need that. I'm just going to convert it into a density field. I'm going to increase the the point radius a bit more, maybe 0.6, because I see lots of gaps there. And I'm just going to go to a frame where we have, pardon me, where we have, 50-50 basically. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a null and call this out collision. And this field, we can leave it, it's fine. We can leave it surface, but I'm going to call it collision so we know what to use it for. And I'll explain all of this in a second. And then this new one is going to be our new out source smoke. Okay, let's plug this into our sim. And this is what we had before. Let's leave that, it's okay. I'm going to use this new one here. So let's dive inside and smoke source. I'm going to alt drag this and just to leave a backup, and then this one is going to be new. And all I have in this new source now is the density. I don't have anything else. I'm going to disable all of this, and probably it's not going to move to the left, to the right as much as we had before, because there is no temperature. There's no temperature coming in. And now you can see smoke is being born, and probably we need to offset it by 19 frames so it's emits faster. And it's working. We have our smoke sim, it's coming in, all is well. Let's do this. Let's freeze the time, use a time shift, and just freeze this so we can test it properly. And let's pick frame 60 maybe, where it's 50-50. I want to get a collision and an emitter, something like this. And just freeze it so we don't have to evaluate that every frame. And here we can tweak the sim to get all the effects that we need. But right now we're simply emitting smoke continuously. That's fine. We need some collision, or we need the collision geometry. So let's use a source volume node, and I'm going to set it to collision. And you will see that it sets up two fields, collision, and it's going to go into collision. And this value is set to -1. And then we have a V. This can be my velocity, doesn't matter. And then here it's going to go into collision val. And it's being used as an add mode. So why is this negative? Well, it's because it expects it at an SDF, which is what we have here. So this is an SDF that works exactly with the collision node, or the collision setting for this node. I'm going to tick on enlarge fluid container, connect this, and call it collision source. Let's hit play. Oh, sorry, we didn't connect the source. Out collision. And let's make this smaller. Okay, let's hit play. And now we should see the smoke colliding with the object, but it's not doing that. So let me check what is happening. I'm going to turn this off, build collision mask. And unfortunately, you need to uncheck this. Let me check if this is going to fix it. Yeah, I think this is going to fix it, but you can see it's a bit slower. No, it didn't fix it. So I'm going to uncheck this. This is great when you are using geometry for collision, but we're not going to do that. In 90% of the time, we're not going to use deforming geometry or like a static object with volume, we're going to use this method. So this is good. So now if I hit play, you can see that the smoke is wrapping around the geometry in a very, very cool way. Right. And I think our geometry is not at 0, 0. So let me move all of this up and let me cache both of them. Actually, I'm not going to cache, so because I'm going to be making more changes. Let's take a look at this again. Yep, it's working. You can see it's emitting from half, it's colliding with the other half, and everything is working as expected. Okay, let's go back and do a few more things. So we created a volume fog of this data when we did VDB from particles. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to copy it here and name it temperature and apply the same noise. But because the field is the same, we can simply rename it here. So I'm going to use a name node, and this is my data. I'm going to set this to density and say I want to rename it from density to temperature. And now if I middle click, sorry, we need to put this here. So we initialize what we want to rename, and then from to, if I middle click, now it's named temperature. And now if I plug this in, we get this nice breakup. And let's see if how slow the animation is going to be, because I want it to animate. Yeah, it's fast. Let's increase the animation, sorry, the element size and make it sharper. And I'm going to combine both of them. And let's go back here and let's hit play. Sorry, not this one. Play in this one. So now it should be importing the temperature. Oh, we removed it, sorry. Let's plug in temperature here, and let's hit play. Now it's coming in. It's gonna make the sim feel more active, more interesting. And let's go back and connect to all the deformers that we had, and then hit play. And it should look much more interesting. And it's colliding with the geometry, or the remaining of the geometry. So now as we emit, it's gonna respect the emission geo. And if I import this, let's import density. Yeah, if I import this and display the remaining half, which is this one. So let me make a surface off of the remaining so we can see it. Sorry, this is the remaining. And this is the emitter. So if we display this, there's nothing going inside this. See, it's all wrapping around the geometry in a very, very cool way. All right, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna disable the time shift node, and I'm gonna increase the resolution of the sim a touch, so 0.08. And let's go back up and cache this in, because it's gonna be a bit slow. So let's file cache this, and just so we can look at it, I'm gonna import the temperature, the density, and velocity, and call this smoke dynamic emission .v1. And I like to name to add the name here so I can see what version I'm pointing at. And I'm gonna turn this off, and now hit save. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you for watching, and see you in a bit.